During the push to get the health care bill rammed through Congress, some opponents were claiming that it took the form of a tax. The mandate that everyone had to maintain coverage, the bill's foes argued, met the definition of a tax. President Obama was directly asked this question in a one-on-one interview last fall.
Probably the most definitive promise you made in the campaign is that no one in the middle class would get a tax increase on your watch. Yet this week, Senator Rockefeller, several other Democrats say that this bill by Senator Baucus is a big middle class tax increase. Do you agree, and does that mean you can't sign it?
Well, I don't agree.
George Stephanopoulos eases into the discussion by paraphrasing some congressmen who said it was a tax increase, and the president said he didn't agree. Let's see if President Obama can articulate his case.
I think that what they were referring to, and I haven't looked at the quotes, but I think they were concerned about whether or not this was actually affordable. If you're saying to people you got to get health insurance, but they can't actually afford it, and they have to pay a penalty if they don't get it, then that's a pretty big burden on middle class families. That's a concern I share, making sure that this is affordable. But the first thing we got to understand is you've got what is effectively a tax increase taking place on American families right now. Kaiser Family Foundation report just came out last week. Healthcare premiums went up 5.5% last year at a time when the rest of the economy, inflation was actually negative. So that is a huge bite out of people's pockets.
Okay, the president said that since healthcare premiums were going up anyway, people were already getting a big bite out of their pockets. Let's see if we can follow that logic. People are already facing rising costs, so there has to be some way of helping ease the burden. He said it was like they were already being taxed. But where is the answer to the question?
If, on the other hand, we're given tax credits, we've set up an exchange, you are now part of a big pool, we've driven down the costs, we've done everything we can, and you actually can afford health insurance, but you've just decided, you know what, I want to take my chances. And then you get hit by a bus, and you and I have to pay for the emergency room
That may
care.
be, but it's still a tax increase.
No, that's not true, George.
Okay, there it is. George Stephanopoulos hit the president point blank, and he insisted this measure was not a tax increase.
If I say that I don't want to have to pay for you not carrying coverage even after I give you tax credits that make it affordable, then
I don't think I'm making it up. Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Tax, a charge usually of money imposed by authority on persons or property for public purposes.
George, the fact that you looked up Merriam's dictionary, the definition of tax increase, indicates to me that you're stretching a little bit right now. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone to the dictionary to check on the definition.
Well, no.
I mean, if what you're saying is...
I wanted to check for myself, but your critics say it is a tax increase.
My critics say everything's a tax increase. My critics say that I'm taking over every sector of the economy. You know that. Look, we can have a legitimate debate about whether or not we're going to have an individual mandate or not. But
you reject that it's a tax increase.
I absolutely reject that notion.
Stephanopoulos even took the time to look up the dictionary definition of the word tax, and the president argued that it was no different than requiring someone to get car insurance. One final time the question was posed about it being a tax, the president said, "I absolutely reject that notion." As much as the president denied, on multiple occasions, that this law levies a tax on citizens, 20 states aligned to file a lawsuit that this plan is in violation of the Constitution. The main point of their argument was that the federal government is forcing citizens to buy something that they may not want. The plaintiff states said the law was violating the Congress's ability to regulate commerce. The Constitution can be an inconvenient document when you're trying to impose your will on the people. Or is it? So there you have it. The only way the White House attorneys could defend the constitutionality of the healthcare law was to argue that the Congress has the power to raise taxes. Isn't that ironic? Deny it as a tax when you're defending the cost, and then call it a tax when you're defending yourself in court. Mr. President, you may have gotten your way in March, but once voters comprehend how badly they've been misled, they're going to have a resounding response in November.